Good morning, welcome to Prague. We got in late last night and we just managed to get checked into our hotel. We didn't see a lot of the city, but what we did see lived up to its reputation as something pretty like it's coming out of a fairy tale. Today, we're gonna go check out the castle and see a musical performance. Okay, minor change of plans. We found out that the art museum is closed on Monday and the castle's open on Monday, so we're gonna go to art museum. We're gonna come back to the castle Monday. Flexibility. Yes. Name of the game. Stroke of luck on the way to the museum. Come across a bookstore. I don't have any Tintins in Czech. Hopefully that's gonna change in a minute. We'll see.
So what did you decide on?
7 crystal balls. I was debating Tintin, the Land of the Soviets, because of the historical connection, but I think it's set in Russia. So this is the right answer.
The Czech National Gallery was high on our list of must-see spots after the Rick Steves TV show tuned us in to Alfons Mucha's great masterwork, the Slav Epic, which featured in the show. For 7 years, the great Czech artist Mucha worked on their massive canvases, and in 1926 they were complete, a stunning homage to the shared history and ideals of the Slavic people. Well, it turns out the exhibit was temporary and long gone by our arrival. Whoops. No worries, it is still a great museum. Let's check it out. A great deal of memorial and monumental sculpture is on display. Take all these studies of possible heads for King Wenceslas, for example.
Which is the best?
Many paintings on display deal with really heavy themes like mortality and death. Definitely not all of them. The Slav Epic may not be here, but several other works by Mucha are. This advertising portrait of Sarah Bernhardt would be one that led to his greatest commercial success. To our amusement, some of the galleries were arranged by subject matter.
Sad people sections located right next to that naked people section. The women reading section. So I'm in the part of the gallery where you're going through the different parts of the Czech Republic. We're in Zlin right now. A second ago, we were somewhere else. Next we're gonna be in Bratislava. It's an interesting reflection, I suppose, of the different cultures in the different towns, different ethnicities, different distributions of people. But I think it's pretty charitable to expect the visitors to the gallery to really make a lot of sense of it. Although it is interesting, they do seem different.
With plenty of day left after the art gallery, we figured we could probably hit the castle today after all. So we hopped on the tram, retraced our steps, went back across town, and headed in. The Cathedral of St. Vitus is the centerpiece of the castle, and we weren't going to miss it. But the lines were a little long, so we popped into Vladislav Hall. Maybe it's my imagination here, but the curved vaulting on the ceiling, though 400 years older, in my mind seems to foreshadow the Art Nouveau style found throughout the city and that characterizes the work of Alfons Mucha. All these folks are crowded into the Golden Lane, a little alleyway of 15th century buildings on the side of the castle where you can walk around and get a little sense of what life was like here long ago. Finally, the line is gone, so we headed into the cathedral. By late afternoon, it was time to head back to the hotel to get ready for our evening. Jamie got us tickets for a performance of music from movies at Municipal House in Smetana Hall, one of Prague's great Art Nouveau buildings. The theater itself was as much of a show as the music was. Though mostly in English, the best songs were in Czech. next morning we had a walking tour scheduled, so we headed over to the famous astronomical clock to meet our guide and get started on our tour.
So they each kind of face us for a second and then they go back in. The oldest buildings in the cemetery and the synagogues were
We visited the small
preserved.
Jewish quarter, whose deep roots are reflected in this synagogue that has stood here for more than 750 years. We enjoyed some much more recent contemporary art throughout the city.
In the battle between war and peace. War is represented by the Spitfire, Vysehrad, and peace by the butterfly wings. Straight ahead with gold crown. That was probably used as a administrative or a small palace.
Almost hidden at street level by buildings abutting the front, the teen church is remarkable inside.
So this one is a church with a lot of gold, and the chapels are all in gold leaf.
Comparably ornate, the Basilica of St. James is most famous for a mummified arm that you can find inside. My favorite part was this sign. This building, the House of the Black Madonna, is an example of the weird cubist architecture style that you can find only in Prague. Prague is famous for its crystal glassware, and this place, Moser, has some of the best. Conveniently, they also have a showroom that's nearly a museum at the top of this store.
Also the wood panel, kind of cubist glass inspired, and I think they're wonderful because just pick one up and how delicate it is, and just you feel all the carving. Yeah. Like they're so light. The bridge after John.
The Church of Our Lady of the Snows reflects some grand ambition. It's quite small on the outside because all it is the chancel. The church was never completed, but you can tell when you go inside that their intent was to build something massive. After our tour, we headed over to the city of Pilsen, the birthplace of Pilsner beer and the home of Pilsner Urquell. We had a brewery tour scheduled, but we got here a little early, so we thought we'd wander around and check out the town. In the main square of town, outside of the church, there's a little market going on.
It's like Christmas markets now.
Before long, we headed back to the brewery to start our tour, which we heard had been voted the best brewery tour in all of Europe, so our expectations were pretty high going in. We learned about the history of the brewery, how it had been started by a whole bunch of local brewers that combined forces a long time ago to invent Pilsner. We learned about the little microbrewery, and then we headed on to the buses to go check out the pride and joy of the place, the new bottling line. The bottling line was cool, but best brewery tour in Europe? I don't know. Then we watched a projection that showed us a little bit more about the history of the place. Took a look at some of the old copper fermenters. I remained optimistic, hoping that the magic was still to come. And it was when we headed down to the old lagering cellars that things got really interesting.
And we've come this way, and we'll make just a short circle.
It turns out they continue to make a small amount of beer in the way that they used to long ago.
We maintain this traditional way of production to be able to compare the resulting beer that we had from upstairs, from the cylindrical tank, and from beer.
So it turns out this subterranean brew is like a standard to make sure the upstairs beer is as good as it needs to be. This special beer is then lagered in these giant barrels still down here in the cellar. And then the very best part comes.
Oh, thank you. That's really good. That's really good. The fact that it just came out of a barrel is probably contributing both why I think it's good and why it is good.
At ground level, in the restaurant, our tasting continued. Not a beer drinker, Jamie was interested in the local soda, Kofola.
That's good. Kofola. So it's Coca-Cola with like an anise flavor to it. It's unique, and from my understanding, this is the best place to get it.
This is the unfiltered Pilsner Urquell. It looks about the same, but it actually is fermented in a barrel. The one that we tried downstairs was this. It's unusual. Most of their Pilsner Urquell is not made in a barrel. This one is, which makes it special. And it's really good. I'm going to compare it with the normal filtered Pilsner Urquell and determine the actual differences, if there are any at all. Okay, that's good. That tastes like Pilsner Urquell. They're markedly different. There's a distinctly, that kind of like a creamy sweetness that you're getting from the oak that's not here. It is good. This is a little crisper, maybe a little bit. Kind of a clean, bright Pilsner, as you expect. Yeah, this is amazing. But this is still really good. I don't drink a lot of Pilsner at all, but I'll drink some Pilsner Urquell every now and then now. Converted. It's our last day, and with limited time before we have to catch our plane, we figure we have time for one stop. So, we headed over and caught the tram up to Vysehrad. Vysehrad is an old fortress located south of the city center. Interestingly enough, this ancient fortress is also something of a hotbed of artistic interest. This is the Basilica of St. Peter and St. Paul. It looks like a normal enough Gothic church on the outside, but inside you're treated to this explosion of Art Nouveau style painting, inspired by the work of Alphonse Mucha, that covers every scrap of wall and ceiling inside the place. The cemetery is full of beautiful memorials, including the famous Slaven tomb, memorializing a virtual who's who of artistic greats. Finally, it's time to head home. Time to end this fantastic weekend, say goodbye to this beautiful country, and apparently head down, this cheese tunnel?